Hi, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. This will be short, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the 4th of July fun that we had, and then get something off my chest that I really would like to talk to Keith Erekson about. 4th of July, it was great. We had a really fun Independence Day. We had billboards up in Provo. Some of you may already know about that. A friend of mine, whose name is also Karen, arranged for a billboard to be up at University Mall, a very prominent billboard on the border of Provo and Orem in Utah. Thousands of people coming and going to and from the Stadium of Fire, which is a really popular 4th of July activity in Provo, all past that billboard. And this ad ran 8 seconds out of every minute all day long. Very cool. So fun. And I'll go ahead and tell you a little story. She took a picture of it as soon as it began to show at midnight on the 3rd. So very, very early on the 4th. And she showed me a picture of it and we were totally excited. And then she texted me in the morning and said, the devil's got his hands in this. One side of this billboard, it was a 3-sided billboard and our ad was on all 3 sides. But one side of it in the morning was totally blank. It was not working. And so both of us were trying every way we could to get a hold of somebody at the billboard company, but it's a holiday, so it was really hard. But with 2 Karens on the job, it's going to get done. And that's a joke. It's all in God's hands. Like, we couldn't do anything about it. But finally, we got a hold of somebody at the billboard company, and he was really kind. And he said, we need a part. It's not going to get fixed today. But in order to make up the value for you, we're going to put your ad up on another billboard down the street. And he actually ended up putting it on both sides of that billboard. So we had this ad running on 4 sides, 4 billboard sides, all day on the 4th. So that was just cool, and it was super fun. And we got a lot more web traffic to the video, Woe Unto You, Scribes, the Hidden History of Polygamy. If you haven't watched that, please go watch it and please share it with as many people as you can. All right, let me real quick, I just want to address something that Keith Erekson said. I decided I'm going to do several videos, very short videos, on just sections of another fireside that he gave. Some of you may be familiar with Keith Erekson from one of Michelle Stone's episodes from several months ago, but he gave a fireside. He's a church historian and he's the head of outreach, is what it's called. So he goes around and does question and answer firesides all over the place. Well, the problem is a lot of the questions that are asked don't get answered, or they don't get answered satisfactorily. So I just wanted to show one example. I have tried to reach out to Keith 3 times, twice on his online contact form, and then once by actually calling his office at the church office building. I talked to his assistant, and she was going to get back to me with a date that we could meet, but I haven't heard from her, and that's been a week now. So I'm just going to address some of the questions here that I would love to talk to him about in person. So I wanted to play this clip about how he faults people for just believing lousy sources. And he's not wrong. In any other setting, it would be a really good point. But I'll play this clip for you where he talks about how people just hear something and just believe it without checking.
They're asking the same old questions. And one of the things the internet is good at is bringing back old stuff. One of the things the internet is bad at is bringing those things back in context. Most of the questions have been asked before, many of them in Joseph Smith's lifetime, and he responded to them. And everybody around him said, oh yeah, that's a better answer than the claim of John C. Bennett or whoever else. And they moved on. But the internet doesn't move on because it will just bring things up and someone will say, I found this TikTok that says whatever. And I'll say, yeah, that's great. It's from an anti-Mormon book published by a guy in Germany in 1884. What does he know about anything?
Okay, so what's funny about this and what's really troubling about this is that I know who he's talking about when he talks about this anti-Mormon German who wrote in the 1880s. And he goes by the pen name Dr. Wilhelm Weil. He was actually Austrian, but he did publish a lot in German. And he is a terrible source. He's a lousy source. And just as Keith says, he's anti-Mormon and he publishes anti-Mormon stuff and it's uncorroborated and it's terrible. It's lousy. And you would be wrong to just believe something you heard from him. The problem, and what I would love to ask Keith if he's aware of this, is that the person that I've seen quote Wilhelm Weil the most is Brian Hales. So here I'm just going to put these on the screen so you can see how often Brian cites Dr. Wilhelm Weil, this unreliable anti-Mormon from the 1880s, to bolster the narrative that Joseph was married to several of these women. Why Brian would include the testimony of Dr. Weil, who is, as Keith points out, very unreliable, is a complete mystery. But that's my question for Keith, is to say, are you aware that Brian Hales uses this source in his work? And does that trouble you at all? Or does that make a difference in maybe how you regard Brian's work? That would be my question for him, and one of many that I have. So we'll address more of these questions and more of the things that Keith Erekson brought up in that fireside in some future short episodes like this. So I just wanted to put them out there. And if anyone knows Keith and can pass this question along to him, that'd be great. I really hope for an opportunity to talk with him sometime. All right. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time.